and please take over and go with it.
Thanks, Robert. It's a pleasure to be here. We are here today to talk about artificial intelligence. And when we hear about the term artificial intelligence, we hear a lot of things, but mostly things about technology, things about machines, machine learning, and algorithms and code and all of that. But artificial intelligence is not necessarily any of that. Any machine, any technology, anything, any kind of contraption that makes human work, human endeavor, human struggles in any aspect of life easier possesses some kind of artificial intelligence. And one of the early discoveries of artificial intelligence I can tell you about is the discovery of wheel. It had no machines, that is, no code, no technology, nothing. Just a simple circular structure that helped to move objects from places to places. And that made human endeavor easy, and it eased human struggle. And that's how it works. So today we have machine, and today we have computers. Today we have a lot of things, but mostly we are still confused with the idea that with the fear that artificial intelligence at some point is gonna take over the world, is gonna become sentient, is gonna start thinking for themselves. It is an absurd fear born of the same old human insecurity. I'll tell you why. Anything that humans do not understand, they fear it. Artificial intelligence is just machines. They are codes. They require information. They require data. It's still, whether it is a wheel, whether it is a code, whether it is any kind of technological marvel, it still doesn't feel or realize what it is doing. It still requires data to function. It still requires information to function. And it keeps on functioning like that until there is a technical difficulty, until there is a glitch, until there is some sort of problem that keeps them from functioning. So the fear is absurd. Humans are much more than mere intelligence. Humans have morality, humans have ethics, humans have emotions, humans have dignity, and a multiplicity of, a plethora of tenets, feelings, and a lot of internal archetypes. That is, a lot of things that make human. Intelligence is a very small portion of it. And for example, you can make an algorithm, a code, out of anything. You don't need all of that advanced programming language. You don't need Python. You don't need HTML. You don't need any of that. You can just make a simple code out of the things that you have in your computer, any computer. Open up WordPad or Notepad and write a code and save it as a batch file. It is called a batch file or .bat file. And that will do a lot of things for you, a lot of programming for you. For example, you can program your computer to turn off at a certain time. A lot of things. Then again, you can abuse that capacity to corrupt a computer. That's how it works. So, but still, it is functioning based on the information that you have already provided, based on the data that you have already written for that program. It is following a certain instructions. And so we are following instructions. We are
You got yourself on mute again. There you go. It happens.
So we are just following instructions. That is, that artificial intelligence is following instructions, but it doesn't know what it is doing. That's why whenever there is a glitch, it cannot shoot its own troubles until that specific program for troubleshooting of a specific kind is already programmed into it. But any kind of trouble that its programmer did not preconceive, it cannot solve that. Why? Because it still doesn't know what it is doing. It still doesn't know what is its purpose. I mean, why is it doing what it is doing? Humans, on the other hand, completely different thing. We grow with every single activity. We grow with every single feeling. We grow, we evolve with whatever we do, with our feelings, with our emotions, with our intellect, intelligence. If a certain act hurts us, we raise a shield, a barrier. We stop being so open-minded. We start fearing people. We start fearing anything, like we fear artificial intelligence. Again, because that we fear that we are going to lose our freedom. We are going to lose our ground. And that's a fundamental fear. There is nothing wrong with that. But this fear is nothing new. It happened to every single technological marvel. We feared that television is going to ruin everything. We feared that radio is going to ruin everything. We feared that electricity is going to ruin everything. But did it? Yes, it did do some harms, of course. But it also opened up new vistas of achievement. It opened up new vistas of exploration. It made us evolve. It made us expand, both internally and externally. Now, of course, any potential, anything, any power doesn't have any ethics of their own. Ethics of power comes from the person who wields it. So if a good person becomes a scientist and uses nuclear physics to light up a city, to electrify a city, that's not the blessing of science just. That is the blessing of that person. It is caused by that person. Again, if another person, based on their supremacist attitude, they use science, they use nuclear physics, they use plutonium or uranium to destroy a certain region of the world, certain part of the world, because they don't like it, or for whatever reason, whatever insecurity, whatever foolish insecurity. Now, again, is that the fault of science? It's not. It's the fault of, again, the person. So whether science does good or science does bad, it doesn't depend on science itself. It depends on the person using the science. It depends on us. Artificial intelligence, forget about artificial intelligence taking over the world. Forget about machine learning ruining your sanity and health and all of that. Your sanity is already ruined. Why? Social media. It's a great boom. It connects people. It brings people together. LinkedIn, a great example. But just because it is a great tool doesn't mean that you can use it however you like and it's not gonna do any harm whatsoever. The worst example of social media, Facebook. LinkedIn still has some advantages. But Facebook, where engagement takes over the drive for engagement, takes over quality, and that's it. Morality goes out of the window, ethics goes out of the window, concern for social welfare, human welfare goes out of the window. Wherever profit takes preference over people, no matter how intellectual you are, no matter how advanced you are, no matter how mental giant you are not going to come to any use to this world whatsoever. The same is with artificial intelligence. It is a great tool. It is a great tool with great potential. Technology is the greatest thing that we have invented. Greatest, I mean literally it is a superpower. But like every superpower, it can do great, like super harm. So it depends on the person using it. It depends on the people using it. A person can use it to monetize people's insecurity. Let's just say you write a code to manipulate, to study people's behavior, or to sell a certain product, or to advertise a certain product to certain people with certain types of needs, certain internet activities. So what are you doing? You're just manipulating their greed, their darkest tendencies. So is it the fault of that specific code? No, it's the fault of the coder. It's the fault of the person developing the code. It's the fault of the person using that code. Code doesn't do harm. Code doesn't do good. The coder does, or the company using the code does. So above all things, above professionalism, above business, so-called business etiquettes, above the so-called corporate social responsibility. I mean, we have this huge terms like corporate social responsibility. We have these things so that we can show off a little. We can show off a little, a few days in a year or a few days in a month, and make up for our sheer indifference, sheer coldness. And that's not how it works. That's not how society works. That's not how the world works. Yes, you're going to make certain strides in advancement. You're going to make certain brief progress. But that's it. At the end of the day, it'll lead to downfall. It doesn't last. Unless it is sustainable, unless it ensures collective growth, unless it ensures the sanity and serenity and health of the consumer, of the people, of the everyday ordinary people, us, you, me, each and every person. No advancement is gonna succeed in the long run. So you have to place the idea of social concern, social welfare, collective growth at the core of everything that you do, at the core of artificial intelligence, at the core of molecular biology, at the core of nuclear physics, at the core of quantum mechanics, at the core of modern neuroscience, cognitive and behavioral neuroscience, at the core of consumer neuroscience. Whatever you do, no field is bad or good on its own. It's the person again. So when we use a certain field, when we are hell-bent to use a certain field to lift the people, not to abuse the people, then we are going to achieve far more with that, with simple tasks, with simple endeavors. So we have to remove the very idea that professionalism and corporations and all of that require abuse, abusing the users, abusing the consumers, abusing the people, because who are you abusing? You are exploiting somebody else, but you are being exploited by somebody else at the same time. So we have to focus, we have to shift our focus. We have to stop glorifying these ideas of artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of that. They are just technology, meaningless technology. We provide the meaning to these technologies. Humans provide the meaning to these technologies. Any technology without heart is no technology at all. It's not gonna do any good at all. So it has to have heart. It has to have dignity. It has to have collectivity. It has to have a common, everyday goodness. So programs, codes, taking over the world, these are all silliness. It's not going to happen like that. No compute, no matter how much these people glorify artificial intelligence, they cannot make it sentient. They cannot bring life to it. You know why? Mother Nature made the human consciousness through the process of natural selection over a period of 3 billion years. And these people are going to just make a computer alive, or bring life to a computer, bring life to a code, just with a few decades of advancement. It's nonsense. It doesn't work like that. Yes, you can make it complex. Yes, you can make it highly sophisticated, quantum computers, and they will achieve great feats of excellence. They will do things that we cannot even comprehend in our wildest imaginations. But that doesn't mean that it still feels, it knows what it is doing. It is still, no matter how complicated its task looks, it is still following a certain algorithm. It is still following a certain set of information. It is still following and obeying data, information provided by the coder itself, by the maker of that technology. So it is not sentient. It doesn't feel. So get rid of this very idea, artificial sentience or artificial consciousness. There is no consciousness. It's just what it is, artificial intelligence. A very, I won't say cheap, because it has great potential, that at the end of the day, a lifeless tool in the hands of humankind. So whether that tool does good or bad depends on the person. So instead of worrying about these silly things, world domination and all of that, we have to think about how do we remove the human biases from these algorithms? How do we remove the biases that have been planted in these algorithms quite subconsciously, because no coder can think of every little detail. I mean, maybe they're not doing it consciously, but it is still there, because human mind without biases is non-existent. It doesn't exist. Every mind functions on biases. The brain functions on biases. So we have to place our attention on humanizing artificial intelligence instead of dehumanizing it, or fearing from it, or just making a monster out of it.
Well, I really appreciate, the